Mr. Bluth, justice is blind.
Justice cannot be blind, Doc. He's got a handle and everything. Come on, boy.
Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be discussing the Warriors Den that just recently occurred, showcasing the new year that's going to be coming out starting next week. Lady Justice is blind and looks like we're going to have to be her eyes. I'm really excited to delve into all these different changes that are coming, all the different content that they're going to be letting us see, all the different content we're going to be able to play with. And in general, it's just going to be exciting to go over all of this. There's a lot of really good stuff in here, and some stuff that's maybe a little bit more iffy than actually good, but that's fine. We're going to break it down together, and we're going to get your thoughts and opinions afterward and whatnot. Make sure you guys are leaving those comments and stuff like that so that we will be able to discuss some things that you might think about the upcoming year, the upcoming changes that are going to be happening. But without further ado, I will not dilly-dally. Let's jump right on in. So first of all, let's talk about the elephant in the room here, this statue that was featured very prominently in the teaser trailer for the new year. I know myself and a lot of other people were theorizing, like, is this a new hero skin that they're going to be giving, like Pirate or something? Is this going to be a new character that has some sort of scales-based, unblockable, undodgeable, some sort of special property move? The internet was going crazy for a little bit about this, and turns out it's literally just Lady Justice. The whole theme of the new year is injustice, and so I guess they wanted to be cheeky and kind of put something that represented justice very prominently. So they literally just got a statue of Lady Justice, which is very well known, like, you know, throughout pop culture and history and whatnot. But they ended up just putting some, like, for honor-ish things on the statue. You'll see here from the sketches that they were showing a few other things, but through the sketches, you'll see that they tried to add a few different, like, you know, shoulder pads from certain characters, and for honor, they basically gave Lady Liberty, or Justice is Blind, whatever the statue is specifically called, they gave her a little bit of a for honor facelift, and they just added a few things from the game to remind people that, you know, this is for honor. This isn't just a blind copy and paste of Lady Justice. The first subject to talk about is the new hero skin that they're going to be bringing to For Honor for Pirate, called Inquisitor Yinchin.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Jokes aside, I love this skin. In all honesty, this skin alone, which is funny how powerful, you know, skins can be or have an impact on people's mindsets, but this skin alone might actually convince me to play Pirate more. Typically, I don't really touch Pirate that much at all. But when I have this skin on her, I might actually want to play her more. I don't know. Only time will tell to see if that actually is true. But I really like what they did here with her. She really looks like, if you've ever played Hunt Showdown, she looks like a character originating from Hunt Showdown. And it's just a really, really neat, you know, twist on Pirate's fashion. Originally, like, the only thing close to this, I would say, is, like, that big hat that she has in her original, like, you know, headsets and stuff like that. But the top to down difference with her is really, really neat. Next up, we have the Battle Pass rewards for Year 7 Season 1. There's going to be 2 outfits, obviously. I don't really care too much about the battle outfits. I never really do. I'm not a big fan of paint most of the time on my characters, but that's, you know, it's just a personal thing for me. As far as I'm concerned, I'm more about the effects and, like, the more unique, you know, executions, emotes, that kind of thing. So as far as those are concerned, those are really cool. Very edgy, that's for sure. You have the Heretic Acolyte, I think is how you say it. And then you also have the Heretic Crusader. Both are very nicely animated. They look really, really good. Red's my favorite color, and green's also one of my second favorite colors. So that works out for me. You also have the Heretic Spikes too. So they definitely emphasized edginess, spikiness in this new season, in this new year. Which makes a lot of sense since it's Swords of Injustice. There's a lot of pointy objects happening. And then we also have the new execution called That's Canon, which is absolutely hilarious. The fact that it ledges that quickly. First of all, it's a really fast execution for as big of a cannon as it is. I don't know where they're pulling it from. They must have really deep pockets in this world. but they execute, and it also ledges, and it's very, very quick. So it's kind of got everything you need in a stellar execution to be utilized on like one of your press inputs. And then they also have Escape Artist as the new signature, which is very funny. I like how the game can take itself partially seriously, but they also remember that it's a video game, and you're also supposed to have fun and laugh at times as well. So I'm glad that they don't really lose sight of that. And they give you kind of a bit of both. They give you some seriousness and they give you some humor at the same time. But I'm definitely excited for those. All right, rolling right along here, we go into the event pass, the event, you know, that is going to be going on, called Heresy of the Relics. They got their own battle outfit here as well. Again, you know, not the biggest thing for me, not the biggest sticking point, but it looks pretty decent for what it is. I definitely like the more simplistic things for sure, and having it be mostly like dark blue with a little hint of red is quite nice for sure. The ornament, Fallen's Justice, very, very nice, honestly. A little big, in my opinion, I will say, but it may look better, you know, off of somebody's head. Highlander's got a notoriously small head, and maybe it'll look better on like shoulder pads or something for other characters, who knows. The Plague of Faith effect, I really, the regular effect, like, on its own is great. It's okay. Well, maybe I shouldn't say great. It's decent. It's solidly decent. What really gets me going, really gets my shell waxed, is the feathers. The feathers afterwards, like the afterthought, essentially, like when they start blowing away. I really, really, really like how that looks, and I really want that to just be its own effect, UB. If you're listening, I need this effect, but with just the feathers. I would love that on my Raven Knight Warden. I think that would be really, really clean. We also go into the actual changes that they did for the actual event game mode. They changed around Secluded Keep to make it look like people are worshiping, you know, a whole bunch of creepy shit there. They said that they made it, essentially what it looks like to me with the game mode is it looks like a cross between Dominion and Tribute, where you have the points that you have to capture for Dominion. There's no minions. They said that they didn't put any minions in this game mode, just like previous event game modes that they've done before. But you have, each point has a certain buff that's attributed to it. So for example, you can go over to the Yokai Dagger point, and I think you get like an attack buff or something like that. If you go over to where Medjay's bracelet is, you get like a vision buff for the entire team and the attack buffs for the entire team. So it's really paramount for you to go around and try to capture as many points as you can, and to just, you know, keep up the fighting, to try to just keep as many buffs as you can throughout your time playing, you know, each match. Not only that, but you also have kind of something that was similar to the Dead by Daylight event that they had, the crossover that they had a while back. The actual Inquisitor Yinchin herself is going to be floating around the battlefield, and apparently the cooldowns for her feats and stuff are extremely fast, and she has a lot of health, and it's also just a pirate in a 4v4 match. So ideally, you know, they said that she's supposed to be difficult to take down, but she also gives you, your entire team, a whole bunch of points. I think it's like 150 points, so that can definitely be used to supercharge your team's lead, as well as unlocking your feats faster. Overall, it looks pretty cool, it looks pretty fun. I'm definitely going to be playing it on and off stream, at least a little bit, just to really get a feel for it. We'll have to see if it's like a lot of the other event game modes that they do, where I kind of play it for a bit and then just go back to regular Dominion, or if I actually stick with this longer like I did with the Dead by Daylight game mode, or the one that happened when Medjay came out with all the frogs and stuff that was going on. Because I do like the twist that they put on Dominion with this. I like that you don't have to worry about minions, like clearing minions. That's definitely like the least fun part of Dominion for sure, is just like maintaining minion lane. Now it's just a lot more about fighting, but also controlling points at the same time. I think it's going to be pretty cool. I'm excited to try it. The weapons from the Battle Pass and the event game mode are up next. I decided to lump these two in together, as you'll see here soon. I kind of just did a little transition here, just to show you how like somewhat similar they are, but at the same time, I really do like how these look. Silver and red is always a really nice color combination, a really clean color combination. But apart from the color combination, just the fact that there's so many different like little intricate little designs on each of the weapons regarding, you know, whether it's the Battle Pass weapons or the event game mode weapons. Both of them are just, they're very, very intricately designed, very well made, and I am definitely looking forward to unlocking at least 7 of these. And I say 7 specifically because I'm trying to be funny. I don't think I'm going to ever get all of them. I don't play the game nearly enough to attain every single one, and I do not play enough of the character roster to get every single weapon variation. But I am looking forward to the ones that I do end up unlocking. Hopefully I'll be able to get them for some of my more favorite characters for sure. And now we move on to everyone's favorite aspect of Warrior's Den, / everyone's favorite aspect of my videos that overview Warrior's Dens. The fight changes. So the first big aspect of changes that are going to be coming in the new season and the new year is that they are going ahead and implementing, I want to say almost all of the testing ground changes that they did with dodge heavies, just dodging in general. A lot of people seem to like those changes overall, according to what the UB devs were saying. Time is only going to tell like what exactly is going to be good for the future of the game as far as dodging is concerned and dodge attacking is concerned. So for starters here, side dodge heavies are going to be acting as lights. When they are parried, you're going to be getting a whatever your light parry punish is on a regular like light. This is not going to apply to JJ, Tiandi, or Jormungandr. A lot of people were complaining that those characters, because they had slower feintable heavies, they should not be getting light parry reactions. And the devs thankfully agreed on that, so those characters will not have that change apply to their side dodge heavies. However, everybody else, it's going to be a light parry. Now, I know there's some contention among the ranks of people that play the game. Some people really love this change. Some people are not a big fan of this change. Personally, for me, I'm not at the top, 100 players in this game, whatever have you, but I'm also not like at the bottom of the barrel here. Like I feel like I have a decent amount of skill in this game. I like to say I'm comfortably above average at the game, obviously. I feel like this will definitely just promote more move diversity at the most basic level. It's not going to be, hopefully, in time, the people that spam dodge attacks are going to learn that spamming dodge attack isn't really healthy for the game. It's another form of option select, and as a lot of you are well aware, they got rid of option selects, way back, like I want to say a few years ago, because essentially they didn't want one input, one move to dictate offense and defense to stop multiple options coming to you or going to try to hit you. And that's kind of, I feel like, the same knowledge that they're applying, the same aspect they're applying to dodge heavies, how everybody just does a dodge attack a lot of the time to answer multiple options, to stop lights coming out, to stop bashes coming out, to stop, there's a whole bunch of different stuff. Guard breaks as well, if people are guard breaking a decent amount. It stops way too many options, and it makes dodge attacks a lot more risky, because originally there's not really a ton of risk involved with dodge heavies. If they do parry you, they get their regular heavy parry punish, and typically heavy parry punishes are not super duper scary. So I feel like there's definitely much more reward to just dodge attacking currently than there will be once this patch goes through. But overall, I am excited to try this. It's going to be kind of like an extended / live version of a testing ground change. They could always go back and revert this or make changes to this, obviously, in the future, but I definitely think overall this will be healthier for most of the people that play this game. And it'll be overall healthier just, for people that want to see more different types of moves than just constantly dodge attacking to counter, almost everything being thrown at them. We next have delayable side dodge attacks. So the dodge attacks aren't getting, super duper nerfed. They are getting a few buffs as well to kind of equalize things, it looks like. Almost every side dodge heavy, the long and short of it is that it can now be delayed from 200 to 400 ms. So you're able to actually do that input later on, depending on if you want to try to throw off people's timing, if they're trying to parry you, if they think they're going to dodge attack a bunch, you can kind of throw off their timing a little bit so that you're not going to get light parried all the time with the according change from previously. So that's pretty neat. And now we move on to side dodge bashes. So side dodge bashes are no longer going to be able to chain on miss and are going to be vulnerable to guard break on miss. So as you see, they put a whole bunch of people here, like Shinobi, Conqueror, Shigoki, Gladiator, Lawbringer. They basically made it so that, Lawbringer, I think, already could not chain off of his bash if he misses. But I think everybody else was able to do some type of action after missing their bash. I'm still iffy on this as well. I definitely think it's good against, like, for Conqueror and Shigoki. Shigoki's a big one, too. Like, he's not top of the leaderboard by any stretch of the imagination. He's not, like, an S-tier character or anything like that. But it is definitely annoying for him to have essentially a headbutt that has ridiculous iframes and is able to dodge almost any aggression that is thrown his way into a heavy. Even if he misses the headbutt, he can go right into a variably timed, hyper-armored, potentially unblockable heavy that does a shit ton of damage. I really think that it's definitely an annoyance for a lot of players, and so I guess what they were trying to do with this is they're trying to make it so that when you dodge bash, that you don't, it's kind of like with the dodge attacks in general, like they don't want people to just dodge bash on reaction to whatever's being thrown their way. They don't want it to be, you know, a catch-all for various circumstances. They want more purpose behind the moves that you are throwing in the game. They want more offense, obviously. We've seen the trend that's been going on with offensive momentum in this game, but they want to make sure that the offense is also tempered at the same time. They don't want constant ways to get around the offense. They don't want constantly throwing moves all the live long day to counter other things. They want a more thoughtful engagement with characters, is what it looks like to me at the very least with these changes. They're also changing up certain characters' defense while they are dodging. People that do not have reflex guard, so basically all static guard characters, are no longer going to be able to block while they're dodging in any specific direction. This is a very direct buff to all undodgeables. Undodgeables are going to be feeling a lot better. I know whenever I was repping Shaolin up like a few months ago, trying to get him to 70, the undodgeable felt kind of oof at times, especially against higher tier level players, because they could just leave their guard on one side and then dodge, and then they would essentially be covered, you know, two ways, because if I did a top heavy, for example, they could dodge to the left or right, dodging the potential kick that would come out, or they could just keep their guard at the top and block the undodgeable, even if they did dodge to the left or right, because it would still hit their guard. So that felt kind of doo-doo, and I'm sure that didn't just apply to Shaolin. That applied to a lot of characters that had undodgeables. So now this makes it so that your dodging is going to be a little more unsafe as well. You have to definitely make more reads with a lot of these changes for sure, but they are making it so that you're able to regain your defense after dodging. So essentially what that seems to mean for me, I'm still kind of iffy on the finer details of it, but what it seems to mean to me is that when you're doing a empty dodge, so when you're just doing a regular dodge and not trying to do a dodge attack or a bash or anything like that, you're going to be able to get your guard back pretty quickly after deciding to dodge, but during that actual dodge you do not have a guard, and so that way undodgeables are going to be able to actually do what they're supposed to do and hit people that are trying to dodge to get around, you know, the incoming move. They're also changing the Conqueror and Kensei superior blocks that you no longer, when they're dodging, originally, you know, currently in the live game, and as this video is going out, when they're dodging, they're able to essentially have their guard open, you know, at all times, more or less. So it felt really bad that you weren't really able to punish them too much when they were dodging. If they weren't doing an input, like for a dodge attack or anything like that, they could literally just dodge in a direction and just have a guard the entire time. And that was kind of tough. That was kind of tough to get around. It made it feel, especially with Conqueror, like you felt like all of your moves were bouncing off of him at times, especially a really good Conqueror. It was tough getting through that defense, but this is definitely going to change that to make sure that you're able to hit them a little bit more often. And then the last little change with dodging that they showed off is that, well, not showed off, but that they discussed a little bit, is invulnerability while you're dodging. Long story short with this, basically when you're kind of cornered into a wall, or when you're next to heroes and stuff like that, you used to lose your invulnerability because you were literally just boxed in. So from what I understand with this change, you're no longer going to be able to be boxed in like that anymore, or at least not nearly as much as it used to be. And you're going to be able to actually still dodge around different moves and stuff like that, so you don't feel like you're just, you know, super glued in that one spot and getting spanked this way 7 ways to Sunday. Following that, we have the confirmed Jormungandr rework coming to the live game this title update. So this, like, literally the very next week. Next week, we're going to be getting new Jormungandr, Jorm 2.0. Just to sum things up, I don't want to take you through the whole breakdown for Jormungandr. There's definitely a lot more people out there that will do a further breakdown for that. And I know a lot of you guys already kind of know what Jormungandr had during the testing grounds that they did for them. But just to kind of recap on it, essentially what's happening is they're moving away from stamina-based gameplay for Jormungandr. They're taking away all the stamina-draining moves that Jormungandr previously had, and instead they're replacing them with better mix-up potential, better flow, and focusing more on displacement rather than stamina-based gameplay. All the guard break heavies will displace enemies depending on the direction that you do your heavy. So for example, if you do a left side heavy, it'll push them to the right. If you do a right side heavy, it'll push them to the left. And if you do that top heavy, it'll push them forward. It'll push them backwards essentially into whatever wall or something that might be nearby. Jorm will still retain the unblockable heavy as well to further move people, and they're also going to be getting changes to their bash. They no longer have that static bash. They're going to be using a kneecap bash instead, essentially. I forget the exact name for it, unfortunately, at the moment. But the kneecap bash will then guarantee the hammer slam. The hammer slam no longer has hyper armor or anything like that, so you definitely have to be more thoughtful when using it in gank scenarios. You can't just press it constantly and get it for free. You definitely gotta think twice about using it in every gank scenario. But it still does a decent amount of damage, and the bash in of itself, the kneecap bash, is feightable. So it's a slower bash overall. I think it's like 800 MS or something like that, but you can feint it. So there's a whole bunch of different mix-ups you could do from that. They also took away the undodgeable light from Jormungandr. They figured with all the different changes that they had given to the character, it essentially fully changed the character's identity. And they decided that the undodgeable light was a bit too much, that they didn't really need the undodgeable light. And I definitely agree with that. You did not need the undodgeable light. It's kind of like a pirate scenario when she first came out, how they just kind of slapped an undodgeable light onto her for extra annoyance factor and extra mix-up potential. When she didn't really need it in the very beginning. She probably needs it right now, though. She's not doing too great at the moment, in 1v1s at least. But they figured with the Jormungandr changes and how buffed up they're going to be, they don't really need that undodgeable light as a chain finisher anymore. You also get the Ouroboros Might, I believe it's called, which is the mid-chain zone that you can do. It's like a zone input. That gives you hyper armor, and it allows you to essentially reset your chains, because you could just keep looping it in with your chains and just keep going and going and going with it. So that'll be really, really key in ganks. While you no longer have that hammer slam with hyper armor, you're going to be able to use the Ouroboros Might to kind of lock onto different enemies and keep that hyper armor going and keep those hammers flying. But I'm really excited for Jormungandr. This is the buff that they needed. This is the rework that they needed. I do agree that the stamina-based gameplay was definitely getting kind of old at times. I am going to miss it. It is the Jormungandr that we all know and love. But I think we'll be able to grow to love this new Jormungandr just as much, if not more, just because that Jormungandr is just going to be scary now. Like, when people see Jormungandr most of the time, they don't really think twice about it. They just think he's going to sit there and defend until he gets revenge and stuff like that, especially in 4s. In 1s, it's even worse, because you can literally just back away from everything and neuter, essentially their entire kit. But with this new kit, Jormungandr actually is going to be a threat on the battlefield, and I cannot wait to see that. Quick little segue into the Afeera bug fixes that they also showed off. They did specifically say that a lot of the stuff, like the cheap stuff that was happening with her, were bugs. For example, the feet combo that she had, literally feet combo with her own legs and feet. Gravity's Pull, it no longer guarantees Speeding Comet. So Gravity's Pull is her tier 1, I believe, and that would normally guarantee the tier 3, the Speeding Comet, as long as you pressed it right after you finished the Gravity's Pull. That was really annoying, because then Speeding Comet also guaranteed a heavy afterwards, and it's just way too much guaranteed damage. So they definitely, I'm glad that they got rid of that, and they did confirm that that was definitely a bug in the system that was not supposed to be as powerful as it was. And they also essentially changed her chain links, so that you're no longer able to get kicked for free if you're changing your guard. Now, if you're changing your guard, you're still able to dodge out of the kick. That was another confirmed bug that they did for her. Those are two of the most annoying things with Afeera currently, and have been for, since she's been released, essentially. Other than, the two infinites, I should say, that she had with the shield bashes off of walls and stuff like that. But those have been long gone now. So now they're fixing, they're cleaning her up a little bit more. They're getting rid of a lot of this guaranteed bullshit that was on the character. And I definitely think she's going to be a lot less frustrating to play against. you're going to have to work a little bit harder to get some of those mix-ups and some of that damage out to your enemies. Last but certainly not least, we have the testing ground changes that are going to be coming, mainly for Lawbringer, a little bit for Nuxia, but still, changes, fun. We're going to get into it. I'm going to try not to take up too much of your time because I know that this video is going to be getting close to 30 minutes now, and I don't want it to be too long for you guys. I want to try to keep it short and sweet, so here we go.
So we got, like, unlocked chains, basically?
Exactly.
What else do we have?
You can press anything you want. You're going to be doing your chain.
The first thing you'll notice here is that LB's chains are now like fully unlocked. I said I think it's what the devs were talking about in the Warriors Den. They made it so that you no longer have to start with a light or a heavy to get into your chains, and then the chains are not only, you know, certain specific chains. You are now able to chain lights together. You're able to chain your lights into your heavies into your lights. You could kind of do whatever you want to do as far as chain things go. So that immediately makes them a lot better. It allows for a lot more freedom when you're fighting, instead of just having to start with a light for most of your chains, or having to start with a bash for most of your chains. It just allows for more freedom, which I like. You'll also be able to get a little boop after any heavy. So normally it was after only the top heavy. That combo boop is now on any heavy that you throw. So if you get a regular GB and you throw that side heavy or whatever, you're going to be able to get that little extra boop for your light to get a little bit of extra damage and whatnot. They also talked about how that combo boop is actually necessary in order to keep the offense going with LB. As you can see here with this clip, there's a lot of orange coming out from LB now that he's able to use that combo light, and it essentially is a link within his own chain to get him back to his heavy finishers. And they emphasized in the den that the heavy finishers were definitely a bread and butter thing for LB, and they definitely wanted to keep that as a main focus for him. And so they basically just made it easier to link yourself into those heavy finishers, because a lot of the time with LB especially, you would use a whole bunch of your stamina trying to get an actual mix-up going, and by the time you got to that unblockable heavy, you barely had like maybe half your stamina, and then half the time the unblockable heavy wouldn't even work. So now at least you're going to be able to get to it a little bit faster, hopefully use a little less stamina on the way, since you have better ways to get into your offense, better ways to sustain your offense. And it should be a pretty fun time for LB players, and pretty terrible time for other people. They're also going to be changing around in the testing grounds his mid-chain bash. So they emphasized that the side bash isn't really going through any changes necessarily, but the mid-chain bash, the little bit slower one, that one is now going to be, I believe, 800 MS or something around that. And they changed the animation. The way that they explained it is that why it looks so janky. It does look incredibly janky to me, but I kind of understand their thought process with it. Like, it is tough, since he's one of the OG characters in the game, to delve back into the code and change things from the ground up. I'm sure they could probably change it like later down the road with more time and investment into it, but for now, as long as it like functions okay, I'll bite the bullet. I'll be happy with it. But you can feint out of that bash is the big thing too. So because it is slower, they're making it so you can feint out of it, and that gives you even more mix-up potential within your chains to get that, you know, maybe feint out of the bash into a GB, and then you get the side heavy into your boop, into your chain to start that chain to get back into the unblockable finisher. So it's all about getting back to that unblockable finisher. That's the big thing with LB, apparently, with this testing ground change, with a lot of these testing ground changes. You'll notice as well that starting with the second heavy in the chain, he gets hyper armor on it. A lot of people noticed, a lot of people that were LB players, or people that fought against LB a lot, noticed that when LB got to that second heavy in the chain, you can literally just sit there and block it. If he feints it, so what? Doesn't really present any sort of viable threat to anybody. It was kind of a non-starter there, and that's one of the issues why it took so much stamina to get to that finisher heavy, because that second heavy was probably getting blocked and or parried, and just completely stopping his momentum a lot of the time. So now it's at least got hyper armor, so he could trade with people that are maybe trying to light him out of a potential feint into GB, stuff like that. It's a little bit safer of an option to get into his offense. And you notice that his finisher heavy as well, the unblockable heavy, that also has hyper armor no matter what direction you're going with that. So he's a much safer character to actually throw moves with now. He doesn't feel like such a big hulking behemoth that can't really throw a move that much. He's actually going to feel pretty good, I think, as far as offensively speaking is concerned. And I am very, very stoked as an LB main He was my first rep 70. Like it was really tough getting up there, but this is definitely going to make up for it for sure. And I am very, very excited to get into the testing grounds to try this out for a while and see how well it goes in the fights. They also removed the stun on any regular top heavy. The only time you get the stun, they still did maintain the stun because that is an integral part of his identity, but they only kept it on the finisher top heavy, which definitely is nice. It was frustrating for people at times to be constantly stunned and not see a damn thing, so I do understand people's frustration with that, and I am glad that they were able to only keep that in niche circumstances with that top heavy landing, and not every single top heavy that you ever throw at people. They then showcased, a little bit of the long arm. They didn't really change anything about the long arm, except that it looks like, I could be wrong here, but it looks like you get a top heavy off of long arm now, which is pretty sick. I mean, pretty sure it's, around the same damage, and you don't get that extra little stun advantage too. But it's nice that you're able to throw any type of heavy, whether it's the side heavies or the top heavy, and be able to get that punish off the long arm. And it also looks like long arm initiates chains too. So after your long arm, you could throw your heavy, and then go right into that unblockable afterwards, or whatever kind of combos that you want to do with your bash or what have you. So that'll be really good, that it'll be more of a initiator as well. I am sad. When I was originally thinking of a rework for LB, I was thinking faster bash, and I was also thinking maybe feightable long arm. But I think all the other changes that they gave to LB here is going to more than make up for it for sure. I don't think he's going to need a feightable long arm, and they did say that it's a dedicated 4v4 tool. So it does suck that it's not really supposed to be used in 1v1s a ton. You can still use it, it is a little bit more viable now, but it's definitely much more of a 4v4 tool. I get that, I do. I'm a little sad. I shed at least a tear or two when they talked about how they didn't really make any other changes to long arm, no feints, no nothing, but I understand. We'll just move on. They're changing how impale works as well. You can no longer let go early and have them still bounce off the wall. They'll be thrown a little bit, but they will no longer collide with any walls or any enemies that are nearby, to my knowledge. And also, you're able to, the impale is essentially a chain starter. It doesn't reset your chain how it used to, how it does, currently in the live game, where you can impale them into a wall and then you get that, free starting top heavy, and then you go into whatever chains you want. Now it's a chain starter where you get to do a hyper armored heavy afterwards, but it's less damage as well. I think they said 20 damage or something. So they wanted to emphasize he does damage, he does a bunch of mix-ups and stuff, but he shouldn't be too infuriating to deal with, at least how he was off of impale parries. His defense is still good. You still want to get the impales where you can, but that's not always the go-to move now for him. That's not always his best parry punish anymore, which is nice. Speaking of parry punishes, with the impale and whatnot, you get that light little boop parry punish off of a heavy, but that got buffed. That is now at 16 damage, so that is definitely going to be messing some people up. And again, it goes back into the whole conversation of, as an LB, maybe you don't always want to impale people all the time to try to get a bigger punish out of it. Sometimes you just want to do that boop to flow right into your chains. So now you got that nice amount of choice between what you actually want to do, that nice freedom of decision making that you can decide for yourself whether or not you want to do certain things. Last two changes that they did for testing grounds for LB is that they made it so that he no longer has enhanced lights. He doesn't really need enhanced lights, I'll be honest. He does not need them with all the changes that they gave to him here. He's got plenty of offense, and I feel like the enhanced lights were kind of a very transparent toilet paper band-aid fix, essentially. It didn't really do that much for his offense. It allowed you to get into your chains, but they could still be blocked and still be parried. Now these are going to be blocked and parried, but now you don't have to do those side lights as your only form of offense, your only form of chain starters a lot of the time. So that's fine. I'm fine with this. He's got plenty of other tools to work with now in these testing grounds. And then the other change that I want to go into real quick is his zone. The zone is now a chain starter as well, and you also get the hyper armor off of the zone. And the last little change is for Nuxia. She is not getting nearly as much love as LB here, but the way that they talked about it in the Warriors Den is that she's a complex character. She's the only character in the game that has the properties with the traps, so it's going to be a lot harder, and it's going to take a lot more time for them to really, work on her. So far, what they've done with her here, it's the only change that they've made for her so far, but they're going to be doing a lot of different changes based off of how this change works out, and the different feedback that they get from the players of the community. But they made it so that the trap little like trap thingy that pops up, the little trap notification. When that pops up, that comes out a little bit later now. So a lot of the times people will be able to like emote out of it. People will be able to just throw a heavy or whatever, throw whatever they want to, just as a response to the trap because of the animation, the way that the indicator came out beforehand. Now that it's later, people are ideally they said going to have to actually make a commitment and actually have to try to make a read a little bit more. You're not going to be able to just react to everything all the time. And they did mention a whole bunch of the people that could react to like almost everything under the sun in the game. So they made this change with them in mind as well. So I'm hopeful. I'm not a Nuxia main at all. I know a decent amount of people in my community that are Nuxia mains though. Shout out to you guys. You guys are the true troopers here. But hopefully with this change, it does make her at least good enough to the point where she's not so outclassed all the time. And then what they said is that if this change works, that then maybe this and maybe one or two other things they could change and make her be a pretty viable character. If this doesn't work though, they said that they might actually have to go back to the drawing board with her as far as like, do we keep traps or do we change up her entire, rework her entire kit essentially. I'm kind of hopeful they keep the traps. It's really unique and it does feel pretty cool when you could pull it off and guess correctly. Hopefully this changes enough for her to make her viable. If not, I guess we'll be back here and we'll be discussing any other further changes that she gets down the road. And just like that, we've hit the end of the video. I'm going to wrap things up here. I know it was definitely a longer one, but there was a lot of content to decipher, especially with LB. I love LB so much, and I definitely wanted to break that down as much as I could for you all. Thank you so much for watching. I'm very excited to see you guys on the battlefield. If you did enjoy the content, make sure you all do me a favor. Drop a like, put a comment down. I love answering them. It's always a fun time in there. Make sure you guys are checking out the socials as well. I got my links for those too. And I'm definitely going to be streaming this a lot over at my Twitch as well if you want to go check that out too. Discord's in there as well. That's where we communicate with our entire community. It's the best place to get in touch with me. Love chatting with you guys. Love chatting it up about anything For Honor related or otherwise. But I'm going to head out. I'm going to go bathe in my ponds. But take care, stay turtly, stay awesome, and we will catch you on the next one. Peace out, guys.